Yes, please.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Muller, when we broke for lunch just before that, I had been asking you questions about what had occurred after you left the convenience store in Missouri and were on your way to the hospital. You indicated that en route to the hospital you had oxygen and something else with a steroid in it, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time you arrived at the hospital, correct?
Yes.
When you arrived at the hospital, I assume you were rendered some treatment there when you initially arrived?
Yeah, intravenous.
Okay. Anything else?
Treatment-wise, they might have given me another home treatment.
Okay. With regard to your being there at the hospital, when you first arrived, did they take any kind of a history from you as to what had occurred leading to the delivery of you to the hospital?
At some time they did.
And do you recollect whether or not you told them about the incident which had occurred in New Jersey and the circumstances surrounding what took place at the convenience store?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to that, do you know whether it was recorded in any way in hospital documents?
I'd have to say yes.
Okay. At some point in time, did you meet a forensic nurse named Dee Ballard?
I know I met a nurse, I wouldn't know her name.
Is it Ballard or Ballard? I'm sorry. Ballard, that's what do you remember?
I remember a nurse, but I wouldn't know her name.
Do you remember that she was kind of the primary caretaker for you there, aside from the doctors that might have been there?
There was one person, yes.
Okay, and with regard to her, at some point in time, she asked you a number of questions about not only your medical condition, but what had occurred? Do you recall that?
Yes, yes.
Do you recall her ever telling you that the entire proceedings while you were at the hospital were being recorded, video and audio recording?
Vaguely.
Okay. Do you ever recollect her telling you that she believed that you were in shock when you arrived?
I can't recall that.
Okay. Has anyone ever told you that you were in shock as a result of this incident?
I don't believe so.
Was there ever any time that you would have been unconscious as a result of anything that occurred in this incident?
I might have dozed, I didn't pass out or faint. I don't think I did that.
So if such a thing happened, it would have been as a result of sleep as opposed to being, as we would refer to as unconscious.
I'm guessing it would be. I don't think I could have slept. But
The one of the pictures that we were shown was a picture of a pair of glasses in the parking lot in Newton. Do you recall seeing that picture?
yes.
And you identified those as you believed that they were your glasses, correct?
Yes.
I know you're wearing a pair of glasses today, correct?
Yes.
Did anyone at the hospital ever give you a pair of glasses to use at any time?
No.
Were you asked to read anything?
No.
Do you need the glasses to be able to read?
Yes.
Do you need the glasses to be able to use for perception of people, figures, and so on?
No.
Okay. Are they primarily for reading purposes?
At that time, yeah.
Okay. With regard to the days in question there, then, the fact that you didn't have your glasses would not have affected your ability to identify the individuals, such as the one you referred to as Scammel, the one you referred to as the skinny dude, and Mr. Stangeland.
I've got no problem with that.
Okay. With regard to your description at the hospital, do you recall telling them about the injuries that you had, your head, your face?
Can't recall.
Do you recall them telling you that you didn't have any broken bones?
I can't recall.
Do you recall them telling you that with regard to the x-rays that had been taken that there wasn't any indication you had broken bones?
Say that again.
Do you recall them telling you that as a result of the x-rays they had taken, there was no indication of any broken bones?
I was at work.
I'm sorry?
Maybe. I was like that. It's a tough call. Don't remember that too much.
And do you recall whether as a result of any of the abrasions or cuts that you sustained, whether any stitches were given to you?
No stitches.
Any staples?
No.
Do you recall anyone telling you at the time that you were dehydrated?
Yes.
Do you recall what treatment you were given for dehydration?
Well, those intravenous.
Okay. Were you also given any liquids?
Probably a ginger ale, I think.
You remember eating a cheeseburger?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember talking to the nurse about possibility of having an Amstel?
Sure, probably.
Is that something that you would normally drink as a beverage, an Amstel?
Yes.
So you weren't so far out of it to know what your preferred beverage might be?
No, not in that case.
While you were there at the hospital, you spent a couple hours and then you were released, correct?
I don't know how long I was there, but I was released.
And you went to the police department after that.
Yes.
And how did you get from the hospital to the police department?
The police,
Okay, ride the police car?
it wasn't a car, it was an SUV, I think, or,
Okay, was it marked?
I don't know.
With regard to the police officer who you rode with, do you recall who it might have been?
I have no idea.
Do you recall that you were taken to the Lake Ozark Police Department?
I wouldn't have known the name.
You know it now?
Not told.
Okay. When you were taken to police headquarters, did you give a statement while you were there, which was in any way recorded?
That I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall whether or not you gave a written statement at any time?
No, I didn't write it.
Do you recall whether you were interviewed by officers while you were at the Lake Ozark Police Department?
I do. Yes, I do.
And do you recall giving them statements?
Yes.
With regard to the leaving the Lake Ozark Police Department, at that point you were taken to the Camden County Jail, I believe.
I guess so.
Did they tell you why it was you were going to be put in the jail?
Well, the one thing, they didn't have the funds to put me in a hotel, and that was the safest place.
I see. And at that point in time, was there some indication made to you that you continued to be in danger?
Well, meaning it's the safest place for me, yeah. I could have taken that, yeah, I could be still in danger.
And you knew at that point in time that the three individuals who had accompanied you from New Jersey to Missouri were in custody, correct?
Yes, I did know that.
They told you that.
Yes.
And with regard to the events that you indicated concerned you afterward, you said that you still have fear, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Do you truly believe that maybe the same circumstance might reoccur?
Never know.
You did, at some point in time, not only in your mind, but also it was confirmed to you that you were the wrong Jeffrey Muller, correct?
Not until all of this was said and done.
Were you told that they actually located and interviewed the Jeffrey Muller who was the one that should have been the target of this incident?
When I got back to New Jersey, yes.
And did they ever introduce you to that individual? Did you ever try to contact that individual? Did you ever learn of the reasons why an individual named Jeffrey Muller was being abducted from a parking lot in New Jersey and taken to the state of Missouri?
Well, they believed I swindled money out of this guy out in Missouri.
Okay. And when did you learn that that was the reason?
The whole story after I got back.
Okay, so that wasn't something that you were told while you were on your way out to Missouri?
Well, they told me I swindled some money out of somebody on my ride out there. That's why I was being taken.
And who told you that?
Camel guy.
When you were brought back to New Jersey, you indicated that you were processed at the New Jersey State Police, whatever it was, barracks headquarters near Newark Airport.
Yes,
And at that point in time, you were photographed?
yes,
Were you fingerprinted?
yes,
Do you remember giving a swab for DNA?
yes,
At any time were you examined by a doctor?
no,
Other than New Jersey State Police officers who were present at the time, and perhaps someone from the Newton Police Department, was there anyone else present at that meeting? At State Police Headquarters?
Mike Richards and Justin Blackwell.
Did you know Mike Richards before this occasion?
No.
After this was over, and following your being reunited with your family, you were asked to go to the Newton Police Department and to give a statement or an interview, correct?
Correct.
And before when Mr. Muller asked you, was a transcript marked S56, and you perused it briefly and said it appeared to be the transcript taken from that interview, correct?
Is that this morning?
Yes.
Yes, the paper's here?
Right.
Yes.
And what's on the disc you really don't know because you didn't get to play the disc, correct?
No, I didn't.
Have you ever seen that interview and its contents which are contained on that disc?
Ever seen him? No.
Seen it, no? Or watched, listened?
No.
Do you recall giving that statement?
Yeah.
Do you recall who was present when the statement was given?
Mike Richards and Justin Blackwell.
Do you remember that Detective Muller of the Newton Police Department might have also been present?
I don't remember. I think it was just the two. There was only two there in that room.
You, if I could just go back to the conversation you overheard, which was going on after the vehicle broke down on the side of the highway. You indicated Mr. Stangeland was on a phone speaking to someone, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall during the course of that conversation anyone identifying themselves by name?
Heard Andy. And at one time in conversation, because they were in disarray there. Other names came up, but at that time I still couldn't comprehend it, but I do remember it.
What about during that phone conversation? Do you recall Mr. Stangeland identifying himself to the person on the other side?
No.
Do you recall hearing the conversation that was being carried on by the other individual?
I could hear Stangeland here talking, I could hear the other guy talking.
And you indicated that it sounded like he was real bad, like he was having trouble every so many words, coughing, choking, and so on.
Correct.
Meaning the other guy.
Yes.
You were not able to identify who that was.
No.
And you don't know where the call was made to, I assume.
No idea.
With regard to that phone call, how long did the call last?
Maybe a minute.
Do you recall during the course of that conversation, Mr. Stangeland giving directions to where he might have been located?
Yeah, in a vague way. I mean, time-wise, he might have said something like an hour out, hour and a half out, something like that. I don't know.
Do you recall whether or not Mr. Stangeland made a second call to someone after you got to the convenience store in Lake Ozark?
It's possible.
Do you recall any of the substance of any such conversation?
That the car was broken down, they couldn't get it started, you better come get us.
Okay. And do you recall the conversation then being it's about an hour out?
Yes. Well, I don't know if it was, I heard that on the phone, or one of them said we're an hour out.
Did anyone ever indicate to you the direction that the individuals who would be coming to meet you would have been coming from, whether it would be from the east or from the west or the north or the south?
I assumed it was from the west,
Why did you assume that?
because they had further to go.
Did you have an indication where your ultimate location that you were headed for was?
None.
Was Nevada, Missouri ever mentioned to you?
No.
You indicated that you recollected seeing Mr. Stangeland in your store in late November, early December at some prior time.
Yes,
And you indicated at that time that you recollect that he was dressed wearing a Harley Davidson hat.
I thought he had a Harley hat on, yeah.
Are you sure it was a Harley hat?
I could say I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Could have been some other John
It wasn't a
Deere hat.
baseball hat, and it wasn't a John Deere hat. It was a bike hat.
I see. By hat, I don't mean to.
Well, that flames on it.
Okay. Is it like a baseball cap type hat?
Yes.
Or,
Yes,
and it had flames on it?
yes,
And he was wearing this when he came into your store in November or December?
yes, he was.
You said he was wearing a denim jacket, as I recall, with a motorcycle symbol on the back of it?
Well, I assume it's a motorcycle insignia. It wasn't a knit club insignia, I'll tell you that.
Okay. You recollected, used the word motorcycle on it?
I would relate it to a motorcycle club.
Okay. Can you give me any other details of the design that you saw?
Colorful.
What about Mr. Sworns, the guy you described as Camo? Do you recall what he was wearing when he came in?
Camel coat with that silk hat.
Same as he was wearing the day in question?
Yep.
When you saw him initially, and he encountered you in the parking lot on the day in January, did you recognize him at that point as someone who had been in your store before?
I didn't put it together at that point.
Do you have any video surveillance equipment in your store that you record things on?
No, I don't. Not now.
How
Not
about
then,
then?
I'm sorry, not then.
Not then. The question was asked of you concerning the hat that was pulled over your head while you were riding in the car.
Mhm.
And there was a hat on the counter that was next to yourself and Mr. Marsh in the video. You recollect that?
I recollect that hat.
Okay. And was that the hat that was used to pull over your face?
Yes,
And that hat was on the counter at the convenience store, and that would have been after all of the events that happened in the parking lot outside the convenience store occurred. In other words, the hat didn't get knocked off or fall off at any time?
I believe I grabbed that hat on my second trip out of that car.
I see. Was there a reason why you would have grabbed the
I
hat?
have no idea.
Was it because maybe it would be evidence of something?
Never even thought of anything like that at that time.
Or that your head was cold?
No,
When you said that Mr. Stangeland said the words in the parking lot, "I'm out of here, I'm done," you were able to hear it and understand those words, correct?
that's what I thought I heard.
Well, did you hear him or didn't you hear him?
I believe that's what I heard.
And you're sure it was Mr. Stangeland who said that?
I'm pretty damn sure.
Did he make any gestures when he said that? Any
No,
movements?
I don't remember any gestures. No, I really wasn't looking at his face.
You said that while you were sitting in the car, Mr. Stangeland left initially to go to the bathroom in the convenience store and then returned. Do you recollect that?
Yeah,
And while he was in the convenience store, the camo guy was in the front seat of the car, correct?
correct.
And you said that you determined at that point that you knew it was going to be over. I think that's what you
Pretty
testified.
much. Mhm.
And was it something he said to you that indicated that to you?
Camel guy kept on repeating, begged and tagged. 3
I'm
times.
sorry, could you say that again?
Begged and tagged.
Bagged and tagged, like a hunting phrase?
No.
Okay.
Something like you're in the bag and the corner's off with a tag on your tongue.
I see, I understand. And he said that more than once?
3 times.
Mr. Stangeland never said anything like that, did he?
No.
Were you told that when you were placed in the county jail, you were in protective custody then?
Oh, I believed I was.
And at that point, you had already spoken to your daughter and your wife from the hospital by the time you went to the jail, correct?
Yes,
And you knew that they were safe.
yes,
You indicated that there was reference made regarding a boxer dog, which you said probably was the one that belonged to your daughter, and a shed on your property, correct?
correct.
And when during the course of the incident was it that those items were mentioned?
The boxer was mentioned right in the beginning of the ride, and somewhere in the middle of the ride, or quarter of it, that's when the shed was mentioned.
And prior to that, you had no indication that anyone had come to your home and that anyone had tried to enter your home, am I correct?
Prior to that, no.
And there was never any harm that came to the boxer, I assume, correct?
No.
While you were at the hospital and you received treatment, was it ever indicated to you that you would be retained there at the hospital as an inpatient, so to speak?
No.
Did they ever ask you about who your family physician might be?
Don't recall.
Do you recall them asking you a medical history of your past medical?
Yes,
And do you recall answering those questions?
yes.
They didn't have access to any medical records from any New Jersey hospital or doctor, if I'm
Not
correct.
that I know.
I have nothing further of this witness, Judge. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Judge. A few questions.
Yep.
Mr. Muller, I just want to clarify something. We've been using some terms to describe the three individuals who took you. We called one camel guy, skinny guy, skinny dude, and then big dude. How did we come up with those names? Where did those names come from? Were those names that you used back in 2010 to describe?
Yes,
Okay. Since then, have you come to learn the names of these individuals?
yes.
Who is Skinny Dude?
Andrew Waddell,
Who is Camel Guy?
Lonnie Swarms,
And who is Big Dude?
Doug Stangeland.
Okay. Mr. Morrison showed you a picture of the contents of your briefcase. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And he pointed out that you did in fact have an inhaler in
yes,
that briefcase. While you were going through your ordeal back on January 8th, 2010, and you were sitting there in the back seat, did you recall that your inhaler was in the briefcase?
didn't occur to me.
Now, Mr. Morrison pointed out to you that this individual here never verbally said to you that he was going to do it.
No.
What did Andrew Wadle say again in that regard?
If I don't shut up, this guy's gonna kill you.
And what did he do? So he nodded.
Yes, he did.
Was there any great distinction for you between him verbalizing it or just shaking his head?
Just shake his head.
Okay. There was a lot of questions posed to you regarding exactly who did what, who said what, who was the one who pointed the gun at you, who tied you up, who's activated the stun gun. My question to you is, from your perspective, were all three of these individuals working together to kidnap?
Definitely,
You're definitely working.
definitely.
You indicated that you saw everyone's face. correct?
Yes,
And I understand from your testimony that you would have been able to see Lonnie Swarns' face, camo guy, almost right away because he approached you.
Yes.
Is that accurate? When did you have an opportunity to see this defendant's face?
I had a side view of them, profile of them when they were getting gas, because they were, they said, go get gas, someone went in, I saw his profile.
Okay. And how about when he came at you over at C-Store? Were you able to see his face then?
No,
Okay.
I mean, I saw his body, all I saw was a body.
Okay. It's just kind of an image coming at you.
Yes.
But you're certain that's him?
So it's him. He's big.
I'm sorry, could we ask that be read back? His answer?
Answer yes, I'm assuming it's him, he's big.
Thank you.
Are you assuming or take a look at it? Is that the individual?
I'm saying yes, it was him.
You went out of, you had testified earlier, the passenger side of the back seat of the vehicle
Yes,
at Rick C-Store.
yes,
Both times did you go out the
both
passenger
times.
side? While you were at Rick C-Store, did you try the driver's side, the side that you were on?
While we were sitting quietly there,
It's just you and this defendant?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm gonna guess it was just, I don't know if anybody, Andrew was in the car or not. But what I tried to do is I put my ear on the side panel of the door and I pushed the lock button down, hearing if I could hear a click or something.
Okay. And did you
I
hear
moved it
anything?
in it. I don't recall if I heard anything, and then I tried slowly to open the door handle up, and I think they caught me.
Okay. And did this individual say anything to you?
I don't remember.
Okay. The passenger side.
Yep.
Were any of the co-defendants going in and out of that door?
Yes,
So that door was not locked in the front at any time?
No.
They were able to come and go?
yes,
Is that why you chose that door? Because you knew that one would be open?
yes.
Sir, you indicated before that you did not want to eat. You did not want to eat. They
No, I had no
offered you food,
appetite.
but you didn't
No,
want
I
to
had no appetite.
Why didn't you want to eat?
Had no appetite.
Did they say anything to you that would make you think that they knew or realized that they had the wrong person?
No.
In the parking lot, at your store, J&G, when we go back to that struggle that occurred, you indicated at the time that you were on the ground with Lonnie Swarms,
Yes.
correct? And I just want to clarify this. Was Lonnie Swarms the person that either punched you, kicked you, or zapped you with a stun gun?
I don't believe he could have.
Okay. Are you right on top of that?
Yes,
Does he still have his hands on your
Yes.
neck? The person who punched you and kicked you and the person who hit you with a stun gun, were they two separate people?
yes.
The protective custody over in Miller County, when you were placed in a jail cell for your own protection. Do you recall why that was?
Excuse me?
Do you recall why that was? Was
They had
it
no other place to put me.
your fear at that point in time? What was that based on? Was it because you had heard other people were coming for you?
Oh, yes.
Was it based on anything else?
No.
Now, Mr. Morrison asked you, do you still have fear?
Yes.
And do you still have fear?
Yes.
Even as you sit here today, you know, basically, has your sense of security, your sense of safety, has that been taken away?
It's been stolen.
Now, you're aware of all the facts and circumstances surrounding this case, correct?
Pretty much.
Are you afraid of Sonny Larger? Or are you afraid of this man right here and what he did to you?
Say that again now?
Why are you afraid? Are you afraid because of what this man did to you? Is that why?
I'm afraid maybe one of his accomplices or somebody known back there, anybody, family member, revenge,
That he may send somebody after you? Okay?
possible. Any of them.
Do you have video at your store now?
Excuse me?
Do you have video at your store now?
Yes.
When did you have that installed?
Oh, probably a month after I got back.
Going back to when you saw this defendant and Monty Swords in your store back in November or December, did you get a chance to look at this individual's face at that point?
Yes.
Is this person the person that was in your store?
Yes.
Was there anything that made you concerned about their presence in your store at that time?
Yes.
What was that?
Well, they came in the morning. I don't know what time it was. They came in together and they just started looking at the leashes and collars and this and that. And after maybe 30 seconds, if I don't see them really picking anything out, I'll ask them if I can help them. And they said no, they didn't. And so I did ask them, can I help you guys? And they said no, we're just looking.
How long did they stay in your store?
I'm going to say 30 to 40 minutes.
Did that seem odd?
Very odd.
During this 30 to 40 minute period of time, what were they doing?
Well, they split up. Camel guy was back by the bird seed out of my sight. Stangeland here came up around where the cat food is and was like, walked towards me. And then he was looking at the toys on the pegboards. That was his back to me, and that's when I saw that motorcycle. I said, we never that in the signal.
Did it seem like the insignia that you've been trying to describe, did it seem like a motorcycle club or gang insignia?
I'd relate it to a motorcycle club. I wouldn't say, just a motorcycle club at that time.
Okay. Let's jump ahead to January and the kidnapping. You indicated that the three individuals were using hand signals.
Yes,
Not speaking very much.
didn't speak of it.
And although you heard the name Andy, I think you said,
That was after the car broke down.
that's the only name you heard?
Yep.
Other than that, did any of these individuals do anything to conceal their identity from you? In other words, did they cover their face? Did they wear a mask?
Andrew Waddell, when we started out, he was in the right front seat, front passenger seat. He had a hoodie on, and he always kept his head covered so I could never get a profile of his head.
Anything else?
The only time he turned around and looked at me is when he made the statement, if I don't shut up, that guy's gonna kill you. And when he got in the back seat and whacked me.
And you were able to identify all three?
Yes, I am.
That's all I have to.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Muller asked you a question about when you were at the jail in Camden County in protective custody, and he said to you, at that point in time, did you have fear because you had been told other people were coming for you. Recall him asking that?
Say that again, please.
Okay, do you recall when you were in the Camden County Jail in protective custody, Mr. Muller inquired of you as to whether or not your fear while you were there was based upon the fact that you had been told other people were coming for you?
Yeah. But I wasn't in fear while I was sitting there in jail.
Okay. But you had fear that other people might come for you? That
Yeah,
someone
they
would come.
called somebody to come get me. Get us.
Were you ever advised who that might have been?
No. Name-wise, no.
Mr. Muller asked you a question about your sense of safety, which you said had been stolen from you. And he asked you if you were afraid of Sonny Barger or this defendant. Do you remember him asking you that?
Yeah.
Do you know who Sonny Barger is?
So the founder of the Hells Angels.
Did you know that then?
No.
Did you hear his name mentioned in connection with this investigation?
No.
So when Mr. Muller just asked you that question, that's the first time that Sonny Barger's name has been mentioned in connection with this investigation?
No.
So it has been mentioned before this investigation.
Yes.
It was not mentioned, however, while you were en route from New Jersey to Missouri, I assume.
No.
How about the name Billy Barger, or William Barger? Was that ever mentioned?
That name came out after I got back.
In connection with this investigation?
Yes.
And you said that you might be concerned that Mr. Stangeland or someone else might have accomplices who might do something to you for revenge?
Yes.
And you still have that fear?
Possible, yes.
When you said you saw the individuals in your store back in November, December, Mr. Muller asked you about their presence in the store, and you said they had been there for 30 to 40 minutes?
Yes.
And was anyone else present in the store with you at that time?
Nobody.
No other employee?
Nobody.
Did you think to maybe call the police at some point in time?
Yes, I did, but I didn't want to call the police sitting in front of them. I was hoping somebody in the store would come in and I would give them a little card with 911.
Do you have an office at your store?
Yes.
Isn't the office at a different location than the place where customers might be
It's in the
given
back.
access to?
It's in the back partitioned off.
Could you have gone back to your office and made a call?
I could have.
Would it be fair to say that you weren't concerned enough that you felt that you needed to involve the police?
I didn't think of it.
This insignia on the back of the jacket that you said Mr. Stangeland was wearing, you pinned it down to being what you believe to be a motorcycle club insignia?
Motorcycle related.
Okay. What is it you recollect about this insignia that leads you to believe it was motorcycle related?
Well, like the Harley hat, denim jacket, kind of go together.
I see. But there was nothing specific about the insignia that you recollect that
It was just
indicated it was
colorful. It
motorcycle?
was color.
What colors?
I know there's red and yellow in it.
You didn't see any motorcycles outside your store at that point in time, did you?
No.
You know how in November, excuse me, November, December, how those two individuals arrived at your store?
They walked in the front door.
Did you see them after they left, like how they left the parking
They
lot?
walked up towards Dominic's.
Mr. Muller asked you about names, and you indicated that the name Andy was mentioned in the course of events between New Jersey and Missouri. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you also recollect that someone was referred to by the name Art?
Can't recall.
Do you remember telling Nurse Ballard that there was an individual in the car and his name was Art?
Don't recall.
Nothing further, Joe.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
Person, you indicated that your fear was because other people were coming to get you, right?
Yes.
Who called for those other people to come? In other words, you did?
Yeah.
So he was the person that was bringing these additional people to come get you?
Yes.
Last question. You testified regarding the sock cap that was covering your face. And you also testified that you were able to see signs on occasion.
Yes.
Could you tell us how you were able to see signs with that sock hat over your eyes?
Sitting in a car and have my head back and then, opening and closing my eyes, that sock hat just kind of ride up so I could just see underneath the brim.
And what was the material made out of, do you recall?
Oh, so,
It was a regular hat?
well, yes.
Were you able to see through that at all, or no?
Well, you can see little pinholes through it, but everything was real blurry. You could see daylight, you could see signs going by, but looking through the holes, I could never read the sign.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
And you didn't have your glasses on at the time that you had the sock cap over your head,
Didn't
right?
have any glasses. No.
Right. I'm saying you didn't have them on, right?
No.
I have one other question. Mr. Muller asked you whether or not it was Mr. Stangeland who made a call that additional people were coming to get you. Remember the question he asked me?
Yeah, just then. Yeah.
Okay. Isn't it a fact that the call that was made was for other individuals to come and assist because the vehicle was broken down?
If you want to put it that way.
Was there ever any indication that they were coming to get you specifically?
Well, why would they leave me?
I guess I'm asking a question, not.
I'm sorry.
Was there ever an indication that people were coming to get you specifically?
I'll say us.
Us, okay. Meaning the four of you.
Yes.
And I know you answered you didn't know who those people were, correct?
I do.
Nothing further.
Nothing else, sir. Thank you.
Robert, you may step down and watch your step. We will take a recess, ladies and gentlemen. to take up another witness?
The state calls Charles Scammel.
Very good.
What was the last name? I'm sorry.
Scammel. Scammel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will swear you in if you don't mind. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Charles Scammel, Scammell.
Very good. And you can set yourself up there on the witness stand and watch your step up. Very good. Get comfortable, and we'll have some questions for you.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where do you currently live?
I live in 9636 East D Highway, Richards, Missouri.
How long, you say Missouri?
Missouri.
I don't have to get used to that. How long have you
And
lived in?
let me interject with a question. That is the correct pronunciation of Missouri, correct?
Yes.
I learned that years ago and try to abide by it, but thank you for confirming my prejudice. Thank you. Missouri, continue.
Thank you. How long have you lived in Missouri?
Was that the last 25 years or so, since, I guess 21 years.
Your residence, how close is that to Nevada, Missouri?
It's about 15 miles from Nevada.
About 15 miles.
Yes.
Sir, are you married?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been married?
50 years. On Valentine's Day, 50 years.
Congratulations.
Still madly in love with my bride.
That's nice. What's your wife's name?
Linda,
Do you have any kids?
I have 2 children.
Any grandkids?
Had 1. And a great grandson, by the way.
Oh, great grandson as well. Congratulations again. Are you currently working?
I do some part-time consulting with some companies up in the Kansas City, Missouri marketplace.
What type of work is that?
Historic restoration, masonry restoration.
And you
I'm
indicated.
sorry, what was it, masonry restoration?
Yes, masonry
Thank you.
restoration.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. You indicated that you're doing that part-time.
Yes.
How long have you worked part-time?
Oh, since August of 2012.
Prior to that, did you work full-time?
Yes, I did.
And what type of work did you do then?
Same type of business.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about your home and the layout of your home. First, how big a piece of property do you have out there in Missouri?
We live on 40 acres.
Like 40 acres, okay. And could you describe what type of home you have?
We have a simple dwelling. It's a manufactured home, roughly 2,700 square feet.
Judge, with the court's permission, I'd just like to use a diagram to help describe the layout of this home.
Yeah.
I don't intend to introduce it into evidence.
Okay.
Sir, and if you need to refer to that, that's fine. But could you describe the layout of your home? How's it laid out? How many rooms do you have?
Oh, there's 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a general living area, a kitchen, and a den off the kitchen.
1 floor, 2 floors?
1 floor.
Everything's all on 1 floor.
Yes,
Who lives with you in that house?
just my wife and myself.
Back in November of 2009, did you have any pets?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What type of pets did you have?
I had 2 dogs.
Could you describe your dogs?
Yes, 1 dog was given to me by our granddaughter, which was a cross between a Rottweiler and a Lab. And the other one was kind of a coon dog that just showed up at our house and we took it in. Bogey and Zip.
I'm sorry?
Bogey and Zip.
Bogey and Zip. Do you know how old Bogey and Zip were?
Bogey was about 7 years old. Zip, I had no idea since he just
He was
wandered
a
on.
mature dog when he showed up.
So Tip was the coon dog and
Yes, yes,
Bogey was the mixed.
correct.
Rottweiler mix, okay. Sir, I want to ask you, do you know an individual by the name of Jeffrey Muller?
Yes, I did.
To the best of your knowledge, what type of work did Jeff Muller do?
He was a financial advisor, kind of a loan broker, that type of, always in the money market type of thing.
And do you know in what state that person lives? That Jeff
In New
Muller?
Jersey.
In New Jersey. How would you characterize your relationship with him? Were you guys friends, acquaintances, business associates, or something else?
Business acquaintances. I'd met him face to face one time in his office around the Fort Lee area. I don't remember exactly what the name of the town was, but it was in that area.
Do you recall roughly when that was that you met him in Fort Lee?
It must have been 97 or 98.
And what was the context of that meeting? Why were you meeting with him?
He had been trying to arrange a loan on a project I was doing in Utah, and it was not going well, and I went to visit with him face to face to see if it was a real deal or not, and that was the purpose of my visit.
When's the last time you had contact with this person named Jeff Muller?
The last time I had contact with was about 2 weeks after a home invasion, to indicate to him that there was some people in my house that shot me and was looking for a Jeffrey Muller.
Okay. You're under jail as 12. Sir, I'd like you to take a look at the smart board. I just want to show you a photograph. You see that individual in the photograph? That's not the Jeff Muller that you did.
No.
Okay. We go to S59 under Blackboard. Okay. Apologize, Judge, we just have a moment. I want to show you S59. Ask you to take a look at that photograph. I think you indicated the last time you saw, or maybe the only time you saw Jeff Muller was back in the 90s, so it's been a while.
Correct. But that's him. I recognize the eyes.
Okay. Judge, can I show this photo to the jury? Because I wasn't able to put it up on the smart board.
Okay, whatever you'd like.
It is in evidence.
Okay.
Do you know an individual from Missouri, named Roy Slates?
Yes, I do.
How long have you known Roy Slates?
I think I've met Roy probably in 97 or somewhere in that period of time.
How would you characterize your relationship with him? What type of relationship do you have?
We had some common interest. He was doing some wastewater treatment plants and talking to him about that, and he was trying to help us on a project out in Utah.
Okay. Do you know what type of work Roy does?
Yeah, I think he was in the dirt moving business, and he put in some rural water lines, and he was getting into wastewater treatment plants, that type of thing.
I want to bring you back more than 10 years ago. Were you involved in a financial transaction involving Roy Slates and the money broker, or the money lender, Jeff Muller?
I introduced Roy to Jeff Muller.
And that was the extent of your involvement?
Yes.
To the best of your recollection, what was the nature of that financial deal?
You know, I don't really recall totally. I know that there was some dollars invested on with a promise of a return, kind of a cash flow type of thing, but I wasn't involved in it, so I don't really know the particulars of the deal.
Do you know if Roy Slate's lost money in connection with that?
I believe he did.
Do you know how much he lost?
I have no idea.
Did you yourself receive any money from that financial arrangement?
No, sir.
I want to turn your attention back to November 9th, 2009. Where were you that night?
I was home watching Monday Night Football.
Where were you in your house? What room?
We were in our den in our kitchen.
And you said, were you with your wife?
Yes.
Where were your dogs?
Our dogs were not, let me back up a minute. I came home from work that evening, and our dogs apparently were ill with something, and I told Linda we need to take them to the vet the next morning. So they were usually rambunctious. One of them was sleeping on a dog bed right in front of our TV, and the other one was the big dog, Buggy. The other dog was in the living room on another dog bed in there.
Did they both appear to be sick?
Yes,
Were you concerned
Yes.
for their health?
very concerned. They were, but it was late when I got home that evening, and so we just knew we had to take them the next morning.
Shortly after 10 o'clock that night, was there a disturbance in your home?
Yes, there was.
What was the nature of that disturbance?
3 individuals kind of busting through our front door, and typically that time of year it's usually pretty cool, but it was a very, very mild evening, and we had our front door open, just a storm door shut, and we heard this disturbance, and before I knew it, I stood up and there were 3 individuals in our house, 2 with sawed-off shotguns and 1 with a big revolver.
Okay. What were these individuals wearing?
Well, there were 3. First of all, there was, when they came in, 2 of them came toward me, 1 of them went toward the kitchen.
Okay.
The 2 that came toward me and facing from right to left was the taller individual, was probably in the 6'4" range, 250-ish type of person. Had a camouflage jacket on and some blue jeans and some brown boots and a ski mask. The next individual to his left, to my left, his right, was a shorter, stockier individual. It's probably 5'6", 5'7", 2 1/4", something like that. And the third individual that was around was a much younger individual who never said anything the whole evening. He was the one that had the revolver. And he had a camouflage jacket, and I don't really recall everything else he had on, but they all 3 had on ski masks.
Ski masks, okay. You indicated that 2 came up basically in front of you. How close to you were they?
Closer than from here to that desk.
Sir, and what did you do when they first came in? What did you do?
When I first heard the noise, obviously I had no idea what it was. I stood up and the 3 individuals were there. The 2 individuals, the taller one and the short stockier one in the blue shirt, was right upon me with their guns pointed right at me. And the younger individual was around to the side.
You weren't able to see their faces, right?
No, sir.
Were you able to notice anything, any distinguishing marks, mustache, facial hair, or anything like that?
Yes, the one thing I noticed more than anything else was the one that was closest to me, the tallest individual, through the ski mask. I could see his facial hair coming out through the mustache, and it was sandy colored. And he was, like I say, he was the one that was probably 6'4", somewhere in there, and had a very booming voice.
Judge, with the court's permission, I'd like the defendant to stand up, and I would ask this witness if he could identify basically the size, height, and weight, and whether this defendant matches the height and weight of the person that came into his home.
All right, Mr. Stangeland, would you mind commenting?
That would have been the man standing closest to me, but his hair color was a little blonder than that, sandier color.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So what happened?
My immediate reaction was, I was standing up, and, can I stand up, Judge?
Yeah.
I got up, our chairs were facing the TV this way, they came in from the back side, I was standing back to this part, and they were right upon us, the guns were on me, and I turned this way with my hands down at my side, and the one in the middle said, "Sit down." And I said, "What do you want?" And before I could even finish that sentence, I was shot. I was hit in my hand and my hip, which spun me around and knocked me down to the floor. And at that time, I really, to be honest with you, I really didn't know what happened to me at that moment.
For the record, the witness had stood up and demonstrated turning to his right and then had orally described what had happened, which I think is a sufficient record. Thank you. Go ahead.
After you were shot, in the hand, was it the right hand?
Yes.
Can you hold that up? After you were shot in the right hand, did you say anything?
Yes, I did.
What did you say? And what did you say?
I asked, "Why did you shoot me?" And
Did anybody respond?
yes, I did.
Okay.
Mr. Stangeland said, because he, pointing to the gentleman next to him, told you to sit down.
You know which individual shot you?
At the point, I didn't know because the guns were so close to me. And in fact, I didn't even know I was shot.
As you sit here today, do you know who shot you?
Yes,
Who shot you?
Mr. Stangeland.
How much were you bleeding? Was there a lot of blood?
Well, yes, and at that point in time, I looked at my hand and I realized there was nothing I could do about that, and I was rapidly becoming concerned about keeping my wife alive in this ordeal. And I immediately asked if I could get something to wrap around my hand.
What did you ask?
I asked a general question. Two of them were standing right together.
Okay.
And I was told that my hand was the least of my worries.
Who said that to you?
I believe it was Mr. Stangeland.
Your hand was the least of your worries?
My hand was the least of my worries.
Did they ever give you a towel?
No, not for the next 15 or 20 minutes when I was in the middle of the floor, no.
I think you indicated earlier one of your dogs was in your den,
Yes,
lying on a bed.
yes,
And was that the larger dog, the
Yes.
Rottweiler mix? What, if anything, did the dog do while this was going on?
at that point, the dog was very protective of me, and he started growling. And I was, and they told my wife, Linda, "You better get that effing dog under control, or we're gonna shoot him."
Did the dog have the strength to get up at that point?
He was trying to,
He was trying to get up,
yes.
unable to though?
He would have probably made an attempt, but he was, before that, Linda stepped up and asked him please not to shoot the dogs. And the younger one, with the gun to the back of her head, led her into the utility room and got 2 leashes. And
Two what? I'm sorry, got two?
dog leashes.
Thank you.
And she put them in the back bedroom.
These people that came into your house, they ask you any questions?
Yes.
What type of questions did they ask you?
Generally, at first it was very confusing because they were asking me questions about things that I had no knowledge of, about something in Colorado, something here and something there. And I finally told them, I said, "Are you referring to Utah?" And they said, "Yes, I think that's what they're referring to." And then the name they were pronouncing, Jeffrey Muller, asked me if I knew a Jeffrey Muller. And after much discussion, I said, "I do not know anybody with that name, but I know a gentleman with the name of Jeffrey Muller. But I haven't talked to him in over 10 years. And so they asked me where he was at, and I said, "I think up around in New Jersey, someplace around Fort Lee."
You feeling a lot of pain in your hand? What were you feeling at this point? Any physical pain or?
At that time, no, everything had slowed down and I was mainly just concentrating and trying to figure out how I was gonna keep my bride alive.
What happened to your dogs?
The dogs, after I got out of the hospital, I was in the hospital, we just got out of surgery. They took them to the vet the next day and they died. They might have had to put them to sleep because they couldn't recover, they were poisoned.
At some point, were you and/or your wife tied up?
Yes, my wife was tied up initially after she put the dogs up. The younger one got a chair, a captain's chair out of her dining room, brought her into the kitchen. They tied her up with zip ties on both hands and both legs. And I told them that she just had a hip surgery in June of that year, and please not to hurt her. And they said they had no intention of hurting her.
Okay. Which was the individual who tied up your wife? Of the three?
The younger one.
The younger one. Did it appear to you whether any one or more of these individuals were in charge, had a leadership role in this? If anyone was a follower, how would you characterize that, if you can?
Initially, I assumed that Mr. Stangeland was the leader,
Okay.
but there were times that the other gentleman was doing a lot of directing too, so it was kind of looked like it was an equal type of thing to me. But
How about the younger individual?
and there, he didn't say a word, and he was only following. He only did what he was told to do.
You indicated that you were tied up. Basically, just told us everything that happened to you that night. How did this ordeal end?
Actually, after they tied Linda up, I was in the middle of the living room floor. They wouldn't let me out, and it was a little bit of confusion because the ball game was still going on behind me. So I asked them if I could mute the sound, and I did. And we started having a general discussion back and forth. And somewhere along in that dialogue, I believe it was Mr. Stangeland said, "I think we've got the wrong guy. We're in the wrong place." And the other guy next to him said, "Yes, I think you're correct." And at that time, they got me up and went over to the island in the kitchen. They gave me a drink of water and got a towel and put some ice on my hand and wrapped it up. Brought another chair in, sitting about 5 or 6 feet from where Linda was tied up. And the younger one then put the zip ties on my legs. First put it on this hand, and the hand started bleeding again. And put them on both legs, and then this arm later.
Okay. Did they all leave together?
No. There was some further discussion about money. They looked in Linda's purse, got in a checkbook, and decided we didn't have enough money that they were interested in. And the short, stocky individual told the other two to go out, get the car, and meet him down on the road. So they went out the east door that they came in, and they went away.
This shorter, stockier gentleman, at some point, did you learn the identity of that individual?
Yes, I did.
What's his name?
Lonnie Swarms.
How about the younger individual? Did you at some point learn the
Yeah.
identity of that individual?
Andrew Wade.
So you're now in the home, you and your wife, with Mr. Swartz,
Correct.
and then what happens?
He came up to me and put the shotgun underneath my chin like this. And I don't recall how long that was, but it was long enough that it gave me reason to excuse me,
You need a minute, sir?
just a second.
It's okay.
It took me a minute or two, and I was extremely peaceful, and I was extremely thankful for all the blessings in my life. have a wonderful wife I'm madly in love with, grandkids. God has treated me magnificently, and I'm just grateful for that. And so I was thinking that I was pretty certain that he was going to murder us on the spot. And the two things I was thinking about, one is that hopefully my children and grandchildren would find some comfort and strength and peace in this ordeal. And the second thing I was thinking about, if they were going to murder us, I couldn't fathom the thought of having my wife see me being murdered. And I was just praying that if he was going to do that, that he would murder her first and me second. But at the same time, I had a lot of peace at that moment. I wasn't frightening. In fact, it's tougher telling the story than it was living through it, to be honest with you. And I'm sorry about that. But after a period of time, and I was trying to make eye contact with Mr. Swan, and he was kept avoiding my eye contact. And finally, he pulled the gun down and said, "This is the way this is going to come down. This is a burglary gone bad." And of course, I agreed with that. And my needle went from being very peaceful over here to being very joyful over here, because it looked like I was going to survive the evening. My bride was intact. And then he told us a bunch of other stuff that he could shoot us from 300 yards away, and he was going to be constantly watching us. And I did, when he got ready to leave, I did pose a question to him. I said, I'm concerned about my hand bleeding and being tied up in his chair. And he said, "Don't worry about that. I'll call 911 when I get down the road." And then
Mr. Swan said that?
yes.
That was Mr. Swan? Okay.
And then he left out the west door, the back door.
How about your phones? Were your phones working?
No, when they came in, they trashed our cell phones. They had cut our landlines sometime right before they came in. So we didn't have we had no telephones.
Did Mr. Swan eventually leave?
Yes, he did leave.
And what did you do after that? Were you able to get out of the zip ties?
Immediately after he left, immediately after he left, I turned to my wife and I told her that I could get out, because I had one of the zip ties were up on my forearm and I could get out. So I told her before that we had to agree with each other that going forward, we had to find a way to not let this situation steal any joy from our life. And we were extremely blessed. And I slipped my hand out and got a steak knife that was on the counter and cut my way out. And then I opened up a drawer and got some scissors and cut Linda out. And we went out to the garage. She got in her car, and we drove across the road, which our driveway is about a little over 1/8 of a mile long. We drove across the highway to her brother's house, who lived right across the street, and we went around the back and went in their house, and they called 911, and then all the help came then.
How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital from Monday evening, and I got back home on Friday afternoon of that week.
When did you find out your dogs had been killed?
I found out the second day I was in the hospital. My daughter and her husband and my granddaughter came up to see me, and they came in and told me, but I was pretty much certain that something had happened to them anyway. And I wasn't shocked by it, obviously saddened by it, but not shocked.
I have no further questions.